Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley here with Kedric Prince. Later on, we will be joined by Bradley Sturdy. Ked, this game, I guess you could take out the last 4:55 where Northwestern outscored Illinois, 18 to 7. But for the vast majority of this game, Illinois they were basically on cruise control and took care of pretty much everything we wanted to see at some point during the game.
Mike, you and I will talk, Brad, before this podcast, and I want to let our listeners know this time we didn't, and I have no idea where Mike stands on this, but me personally, very disappointed the way they finished this game. That lackluster performance disappointed me. They're struggling. Their team is struggling. You're missing your second leading scorer, and one of the things we talked about at halftime, putting this team away, that last 5-6 minutes to me I wasn't happy looking at it. I just wasn't, because one of the things you need is momentum. You need momentum going into the next game. And they looked like they didn't care. They missed free throws. They turned the ball over. And it was a number of guys. I'm not even going to put the blame on one player, but that ending did not sit well with me at all because of what's happened previously. We'll talk about the individual play, but just, give my current synopsis of it right now. I'm just not happy with the way they finished it, because great teams don't do that. 20-something point lead, 22, 24-point lead, and they cut it to 8 within a matter of minutes, and it's just not a good effort. I was disappointed. Sorry.
And that's something that we'll give. This is probably a best case scenario for Coach Underwood, because they got the win. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how bad the win is. I'll take a win by a quarter of a point. And he also now has something he can chew on a little bit, because they shouldn't come in too fat and happy after this, the way they close the game out. We'll give him something to maybe motivate him with for this Nebraska team coming up.
Well, I can tell you this. I know he's going to. You saw his face, and you can read his. I can read lips. I'm not. It's not my profession, but I'm gonna tell you.
But he said happy birthday.
Yeah, that's what it was. Well, good luck to you, because I'm gonna tell you, he was not happy going down the stretch. And some people, just kids have to perform. And I know in this today's day and age, and everybody's opinionated, and people can be really negative, and that's not where I'm going with this. But I think some people are just blind to an eye, because these kids are in college, that they can't be held accountable when they play piss poor basketball. It's not the end of the world. Because you play piss poor basketball doesn't mean that you're mad at them. We go to work every day, and sometimes we have bad days at work. And if you do, sometimes you get called out on it. And I'm sorry. I was just disappointed, because some of these players just expect to be out there, and because of who they are, you have to play. Brad Underwood was trying to win games, and we can hear all the great things about how good this team is and how they're going to be a Final Four team. No one's just going to give them that. You have to earn it. So at the end of the day, you're right. You have to get a win, because going 0-3, and you knew Northwestern was going to put up a fight. And I give Coach Collins credit. His teams play hard. He's turned that program around. It used to be a crappy program where it was a guaranteed win, and that's no longer the case, Mike. But I just think Illinois is better than that, and you got to start reading your clippings on how good you are in this NBA and 3 guys going to the league and all that stuff. That's not going to do anything for you in March, because when the seedings come out, you think, let's say hypothetically they play Cleveland State. You think Cleveland State cares if they got 3 lottery picks? They could care less about that. You have to learn to execute.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's go down just to give people who maybe are in their car or didn't have an opportunity to watch a game. Rick House had 14 points. He had 4 rebounds, an assist, 1 turnover. Went 4 for 9 from the 3 today. Boswell, 17 points, 4 for 8 from the field. Made some layups. 0 for 3 from the 3, which is surprising with a guy who's got around 40% career three-point shooting. He has not been able to do that, but 9 for 10 from the free throw line, 6 boards, 4 assists, 3 TOs. Merez Johnson, 15 points on 5 for 8 shooting, 5 for 9 from the free throw line, 9 boards, almost got another double-double, 1 assist, and 2 turnovers, and only 3 personal fouls. And then Trey White had 8 points, shooting 4 for 8, happened to be 0 for 3 from the three with 3 boards and 3 assists. And of course, we had KJ, who was sitting on 11 points, 5 for 10 shooting, 1 for 5 from the three, 0 for 1 from the free throw line with 10 boards. So he did get a double double and 7 assists, only 3 turnovers. Gibbs Lawhorn he had 3 points on 1 for 3 of shooting, all from the three. 0 for 2 from the free throw line, which is uncharacteristic. 4 boards, 2 assists, and 1 turnover. Will Riley had 4 points, 2 for 9, 0 for 3 from the three, 5 boards, and 2 turnovers, 3 fouls. And Jake Davis had got into double digits today with 11 points, 4 for 7 from the field, 3 for 6 from the three, with 3 boards. So we basically had 5 players who scored in double figures, and Illini come out of this with a 9-point victory that realistically, you should have expected to stay somewhere around the 24 to 18 mark. So a little disappointing, as you said, as they closed it down. The end, I think probably the biggest thing was, Martinelli ended up getting 17, Leach ended up with 17. But I thought the big thing was Barnheiser, 3 points, only played 26 minutes, not very much in the second half. It almost was, he didn't look good, when he was out there on the court. Didn't look like he felt good. And it reminded me a little bit of Tomislav a couple games ago. It didn't look good and got sat down and never came back in. I thought that it was surprising to me, but Northwestern starters, they never really had it. They didn't really play as hard as what we have been seeing. And I thought that was a little bit surprising to see it because Chris Collins usually gets a good effort out of his guys.
Mike, you're exactly right. They usually do, and maybe they have some illnesses that they didn't want to share about. There's bugs going around everywhere. You went down the statistics, and I'm going to use the eye test for a second. I thought Jake Davis played great. And this is one of the reasons I'm not a big plus or minus guy. Jake Davis was, -1 today. And looking on the court, you would never saw that. He had 3 rebounds, 11 points. He shot, it was 4 for 7 from the field, 3 for 6 from three. That's why, and 6 rebounds, like I said to you, and 1 turnover. That's why I'm not 0 turnover. That's why I'm not a fan of it, to be honest with you, because I thought he was outstanding. We all talked about Morez Johnson and how well he played. I mean, he was a beast today, a beast, and he was only 6 points positive, and he was 15 points, and he had 9 rebounds and just 3 block shots, and he played 35 minutes. But again, great performance. The one guy that I want to give kudos to, because if you go back to when they played Northwestern in Evanston, the one guy, the whipping boy, was Ben Humrickhouse, and Northwestern did not take advantage of him today in any situation. That shows you his growth and how much he's improved and what the coaching staff has done, because if I'm Chris Collins, I'm trying to go back to that matchup. But it didn't happen today. So kudos to Ben Humrickhouse. And yeah, he was 4 for 12 from three, from the field, but 4 of 9 from three. I'll take that. He's much more productive. And if you really think about it, he was plus 13 today. So
Yeah.
again, I'm not into that stuff. And the 4 for 12, it is what it is. It's one game. But again, I know people are mad because they think I'm complaining, but good teams, when you feel confident, last year's nothing we can do about it. But you knew last year when they played, if they had a chance to put their foot on your throat, they put their foot on their throat, and they twisted, their heel to be done with you. This team needs to learn to do that, and they're young. It's not the same team, but that's what I want to see out of this team, because then you feel much more confident thinking, hey, you know what? This is one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and this team can go to the Final Four.
Yeah, and somebody was asking, Rick House played 29 minutes. He was plus 13. Boswell played 28 minutes. He was -4. Morez, 35 minutes, plus 6. Trey White, 21 minutes, plus 17. And obviously, KJ was 35 minutes, plus 14. Gibbs Lawhorn was 19 minutes, -1. Will Riley was 17 minutes, 1, and Jake Davis was 16 minutes and -1. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of what was going on there. I thought a couple things were really nice. I thought Morez, he didn't do it every time, but he really cut down on the number of times that he took the dribble in the lane, which has killed him recently. And what I really want to see him, and this will take a little bit of time to elevate, but he's so good and so athletic that when he gets the ball, he just has to jump and try to dunk the darn thing. And I think, he is so powerful that he will get foul calls just because guys, will be in the way. And I do think, again, as he gets better, we will see him become more and more dominant on the inside, kid.
Mike Morez I just read a comment where he talked about, tonight's game versus the Maryland game and how Maryland came out to set the tone. Morez is a very humble kid. He's a nice young man. I've met him. I probably interviewed him as much as any kid that's ever played at the University of Illinois. And you see his growth. You can see him getting better, his confidence. I saw him smile a couple games ago today, when Northwestern went to the free throw line and the fans wanted some nuggets and he was cheering. He's growing up right before our eyes. He really is. And maybe the loss stinks to Maryland. Maybe this is a blessing because fans have been calling for him all season long. And to see him go up and just dunk over people and finish over people the way he has, it's nice to see. You can see the talent level in him. And from a team standpoint, he gives them a totally different look, meaning in the tournament. If they play somebody with the big and who's forceful and, and opposite of Ivisic, then you can go to Morez and you're not going to lose anything. Now, I will say this again. I'm really curious to see now that he's getting minutes and Brad knows what he has in him, or the coaching staff knows what they have, if they'll play them a little bit more together. Because to me, if you had Ivisic and the Morez tonight, and a healthy Ivisic, they beat Maryland. I believe that. I think they beat Maryland. I don't care if they won at Indiana today. I think Illinois is a better basketball team if you got a healthy roster. So this is kind of a blessing in disguise to have the big fella out to see Morez grow up right before our eyes.
Yeah, and Yakachonis actually was talking, and Matt Stevens just quoted him and is talking about the recent foul issues that I just think I have to be smarter. And I think there's a component to that, to some of the fouls that he's had. And I think the other component is again, watching the game today, there there was a little more consistency out there than we've seen in some past games. And now, obviously, Illinois won the game, so we're going to be in a better mood and probably give these guys higher marks because we do have a bit of a bias. At the same time, as a viewer, and I want to enjoy watching games, and there are a lot of games that Illinois wins that I don't enjoy watching because I can't figure out how I would coach a team to respond to the officials. I thought today the officials were largely invisible and didn't really cause too much trouble. And I thought they were right on a lot of their calls. Again, I hate to say it, but this is more of a rarity. It's more of the exception than the rule right now in the Big Ten.
I'm not going to say, and I know people are probably going to roll their eyes and think because they won that I don't have any complaints about them. I don't. They were not a factor in the game today. Not like, okay, so, Northwestern made a run. They're down by 8 points. The officials had nothing to do with them just throwing the ball in bounds like that. The officials had nothing to do with them missing free throws or missing layups. That had nothing to do with it. I don't have any complaints about the officiating today, and that's what we want to see. I think the fouls, yeah, there were a couple, but again, you're not going to get 100% perfect game. You're just not. I think the complaint last week with some of the Michigan, I almost said something inappropriate. It caught myself. The Michigan State fans who continue to want to troll Illinois fans about the officiating, that was atrocious. And I think for some reason they don't have any access to national media. The national media, the guys who cover basketball, who get paid for a living, was very critical of the officiating in that game. Having said so, I even think the coaches, because if you go back and look at it, Illinois moved up in a pose after a loss. That doesn't happen to Illinois, Mike. It doesn't happen. So today's game, I didn't think the officiating had anything to do with it. I was, you know what, if there was, okay, I'll complain about one. Perez went up for a dunk. I thought he got fouled. Didn't call it. So what? You know what? It didn't affect the outcome. If they would have lost that, it was like the 9-minute mark. If that would have happened, that didn't cost them the game. So you and I have been talked about it. We talked about it a lot. I just don't want to know that they were out there. I thought he thought he got pushed once and they didn't call it. It looked like he was having a great conversation with the official. That's what I think fans want. And I'll close with this. We think the Big Ten fans, the Big Ten officials are bad. I will challenge anybody listening to this podcast, watch another basketball game from the SEC or Big 12. It's not just the Big Ten. I'm really sorry. Now, the Big Ten is physical, and they let them get away with stuff. But if you don't think there's a bunch of bad calls in other conferences, you're kidding yourself. Because I watch all the conference games, and it goes on everywhere. So it's not just the Big Ten.
Yeah, I tend to look at the Big Ten more from just the amount of crap that goes on the inside. That if they just decided to not call, if they decided just to call it early in games, you would clear it up pretty quickly, and then have a more watchable product for people.
Yep.
That's kind of where I look at it, and I think this was a game that Illinois needed. You're still going to be frustrated by the end of it. So, Ked, what do you tell your team? When they let up at the end of a game, how do you deal with that as a coach to try to get these guys to keep the pedal pushed all the way down to crush somebody?
Me, as a coach, I'm going to ask one of my managers to go back and show the last 5 minutes of the Maryland game to remind them this is what's going to happen if you do that. This was a Northwestern team that didn't play well today. We've seen Northwestern play better. If Northwestern would have played better today, this game would have been closer. I'm going to send that message and harp to them all the time. That was an embarrassing loss, or even the USC game. You want to remind them. You don't need to browbeat them and make them feel bad and ruin their self-esteem. That's not what it's about. This is college basketball, college athletics, excuse me. You can be beat by anybody. That's what upsets are called. I think there was 10 teams yesterday in the top 25 that got beat. It's going to happen. But if you want to send that message, that's what I'm going to do. And I would not call anybody out individually, like I'm not doing right now and you're not doing, but I would make references to a couple of things that I think that led up to it. And then I would move on from it because right now you need to keep their confidence going. You got Jake Davis who's coming off the bench, who's surprising all of us. 90% of us, when he committed, we all thought he was a roster filler, and I was one of those people. Okay, I'm going to
Same
be
here.
honest with you. I thought that's what he was, and then the more and more I talked to some of the parents on the team, they told me how much of a badass he was, and he's definitely a Pizza Hut parking lot kind of guy. You can sit on the court. He's not afraid of the moment. And that's one of the reasons why Brad Underwood and Tyler Underwood liked him. So kudos to him. But having said that, I just don't want to beat them up, and you want to keep Jake going. You want to keep Ben Humrickhouse going. I talk about Ivisic, but I also think, Mike, when Ben Humrickhouse is making shots too, I think he gives them that different look. I think they feed off him. If he's knocking down 3 or 4 threes a game, I think and I think Illinois has a better chance to win. But when he's 0 of 3 and 0 of 4, not making any threes, it's kind of blah, whatever. But they feed off his momentum. I think he got them going early, and everybody else kind of got going.
Yeah, and I think around the Big Ten, it's going to get really, really tight for this conference because these guys, you just can't predict what's going to happen. You got teams getting blown out. Obviously Wisconsin blew out Nebraska. Nebraska's not a great road team. Got beat by almost 30. But Maryland went into Indiana and beat that Indiana team. I think the problem there has been the roster that Woodson put together was a great roster for 1985. It's not a great roster for the way basketball is played today. I think he's probably going to need to be replaced at the end of the season. And of course, you look yesterday, Minnesota beat Oregon pretty handily on the and so you just when you look at some of these scores, Michigan got annihilated Friday night at Purdue. Now again, when you play on the road in the Big Ten, it's hard. But we've basically you remember it's hard for people to remember these are college kids and the consistency isn't going to be there. And I think that's what Brad Underwood's trying to get in place with this Illini team. But come Friday night, there's gonna be a Nebraska team that's pretty fired up and is gonna really need a win quite badly, and Illinois is gonna need to bring it for 40 minutes.
They are. Mike, there's something I just got tweeted at. We didn't bring up yet by Chris Vessel, who tweeted at me, and Aviso Vessel. We haven't talked about this. Illinois won the game, but they were 16 of 24 from the free throw line for 67%. That's not very good. We always talked about great teams shooting 72, 73%. That's how you finish games. That part was a bad look. And I know right now, if you we talk about free throws and we talk about officiating, I don't want to rehash it, but Illinois shot 24 free throws and Northwestern only shot 6. Maybe that's probably why we didn't have anything to say about the officiating. Yeah. I don't know, but my point is they do have to be better from the free throw line, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up to me because that wasn't a good performance. And when you got Trey White, who was 0 for 3, and what was Morez Johnson from? No, excuse me. It was Morez Johnson from the free throw line today. He was 5 of 9. He's gotten better, but you at least want to be 70% at all times, I think, in my opinion.
Ked, and they started off, they were 5 for 6 in the first half. Somehow the intensity dropped off at halftime. Not exactly at halftime, but that last 5 minutes was bad. But when you look at the second half, Illinois they just didn't really, they shot 61% from the free throw line in the second half. They shot 18% from the 3-point line, and they only shot 41%, almost 42% from the field. So you're looking at almost everything dropping off in the second half. Now, Northwestern ended up shooting 59% for the second half. They shot 46 from the 3 in the second half. And now, granted, they only had 4 free throws, but they shot 75%. So you saw Northwestern, part of the reason why they made it look better and give them credit for their fight. But part of the reason why they did that is Illinois' defense wasn't as stout in the second half, and the offense wasn't as stout in the second half. Now, you were playing a lackluster Northwestern. I think this Northwestern team is better than what they show, but you definitely wouldn't want to have a game like that if you're across the way from Michigan or Wisconsin or Michigan State or Purdue, just to name a few teams.
You're right. And a lot of people, I do think the Big Ten is going to be out of reach. I think it's going to be tough, but I'm never going to say never. And one of the reasons being, there's a lot of games to be played. I mean, a lot of teams, like we say, you look at Minnesota, who beat Oregon yesterday. That's not the only upset. Because people are the team that you root for, you tend to focus more on your school. But can you imagine what the Oregon fans are thinking right now? We need a new coach and blah, 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 or the officiating. It's going to happen. That's why I'm not panicking. But you started the podcast off with this. You got to take care of home. You cannot lose at home. And if because again, you're going to have some bad losses. Let those bad losses be on the road, but not at home. So, you want to be able to take care of your home court and steal a couple and beat some of the good teams. Because like you look at Purdue, and who was it, Purdue the other night when they played? Michigan. You're going to get help. You're going to get help from somebody along the way. And the team right now that seems to be taking advantage of it is Maryland.
Yeah. Well, and look, we got a question here. Could Illinois beat Michigan, Purdue, or Wisconsin without Tommy? Well, we don't know. I would prefer not to find out. I do think Wisconsin, of those 3 teams you list there, I am less afraid of Wisconsin than I am Michigan. Michigan with the dual big guys gives me a little bit of concern. And Purdue's Purdue. Say what you want about Purdue. I know there's a lot of people who don't like Matt Painter, a lot of people who didn't like Zach Edey. But until somebody knocks them off and at the end of the season is ahead of them, I'm going to say that and Illinois hasn't had good success against them. I'm going to say, you gotta. I would not favor Illinois without Tommy against Michigan or Purdue. What do you think, Ked?
Nathan, it's a great question. I don't think they beat either one of those teams without him. I'm sorry, I just don't. Wisconsin has two big fellas too, and it's not at home. I just don't see Illinois beating either one of those teams without him. He is a big piece of this team. I can't tell you how many people, and I'll be honest with you, even the coaches will say Ivisic is a game changer because not only just because he shoots threes, people need to realize there are times when balls are being tipped. His arms are long, he gets to loose balls, and he is an excellent passer. You spread the floor with him, and guys just cut off him. He serves them up like a well done steak when he's out at the 3-point line, and he can defend. The guys, when you look at Reese, he knew Reese wasn't there. He just went down to the post and he ate a buffet line against Illinois because there was nobody there. With the Ivisic, he at least gives you that opportunity to think, hey, I'm not going to do this. Now, we know Merez is a great shot blocker, but Merez isn't 7-1. I'm sorry, just not. So I don't like to say that, and I could be wrong on all three accounts. But those big fellas and what Purdue has, you're going to have a healthy Ivisic to win, or you're going to have a hell of a shooting performance like you did against Oregon, because all three of those teams are good, and they're not going to feel sorry for Illinois. Michigan hasn't beaten Illinois since the Great Depression. You know, Purdue has been battling Illinois for the Big Ten title, championship wins and losses, and Illinois is on Wisconsin, and they felt like there's a payback. So they're going to have to shore this up a little bit, and I don't know the prognosis when he's going to come back. It depends on who you talk to. We all have friends who are in the medical profession. Some people say it's lingering, it could last a long time. Coach Underwood said that he didn't think it would. So who knows?
Yeah, and I like I said, that's a great question. We're speculating a lot. I like our chances a little bit against Wisconsin, although it depends which Crowell shows up because he did not show up for Illinois' first game. He did not play to the degree that one would expect him to. And of course, you have Michigan State leading the league. Yet in the next few weeks, they are going to have to play quite a schedule when they're going to have to travel to UCLA. They'll play Oregon, Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan, to kind of close it out. So we'll see how good Michigan State is. They're smart though. They've won, you win all your games, you get a little bit of a pad, but it would not surprise me to see a Purdue catch up to them. Purdue plays with the confidence of a team that's won for years and they expect to win. And but they also do the little things that help them get the victory, which is frustrating for people who don't like Purdue. But Matt Painter's a hell of a coach, so that's something that people will have to look forward to. In terms of the plan for what's going on with Tommy, one of the things that we know that he looks better today. People have commented that he looked much more healthy and moved around better today, so that's a good thing. And we will see there. They had talked about wanting him to try to play against Nebraska this Thursday night. I will tell you, everybody heals from mono at a different rate. So there's no guarantee that he is going to be ready for Thursday night. I'm sure they're going to try. And then when you do get back, you find out for some people they get winded very quickly, and it takes time to get back to where they were before they had mono. So I would say for Illini fans, you're going to have patience. These guys will get back as quickly as they can, but he may not be full strength for a little bit, and that's just something Illinois is going to have to fight through.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
They're going to, and I know everybody in the country is watching, and I hope that we find out during one of Brad Underwood's press conferences this week. The university will let us know when that's going to be, and hopefully he'll be out there. But he did, and also kudos to him because he was sick last Sunday and he went out there and battled Michigan State pretty good, as sick as he was. But when they played Maryland, he looked like he was tired and he hadn't slept in a few days. But today he did seem like he had a little bit more life to him. Maybe he is feeling better. And, again, everybody's body's different, but they're going to need him. I mean, everybody, has their guy that they like to watch. There's a lot of Morez fans and Draven Gibbs Longhorn fans. I'm just going to say, to me, the guy, the glue, the most important piece is Ivisic. I'm not changing my mind with that. I can't, because I don't just look at this guy to shoot threes. I just look at, like I mentioned earlier, the little things that he does and to make everyone else better, and his passing, like I said to you, I'm impressed with him. Because you can't take a 7-1 guy like that and who can score and shoot like that and say he's not effective. And again, Morez was great today. Not okay, Morez was great today, and it's good to see him perform. And he didn't have 4 fouls tonight, so they didn't have to do that. That's one of the first times this season where he walled up and the official didn't call a stupid foul on him. So we can look at the officiating crew, and I could give the names out because that's listed here. But kudos, because I did not see that being an issue today.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's important when you sit back and look at this particular schedule, and this is why I'm going to say that if I was, I would be I would not push Tommy too hard, because if you look at their schedule, they are literally on a roll here where they start playing Nebraska all the way through the end of Big Ten, where it's either 3 or 4 days between games. So they're playing twice a week, essentially almost every week. And it's literally the very end of the schedule where they get a little bit of time with Michigan and Purdue right before the Big Ten tournament. So there's a lot of action coming, and one thing you want to do is make sure you give him the opportunity to recover, as opposed to pushing him too hard and then have him somehow slide back and not feel well, because these games are going to come fast and furious. It's just chop, 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 chop. So that's the one thing that kind of scares me. Every once in a while, Illinois would have that week where they don't have a game or something, and that's just not happening right now.
When there's 18 teams, you're not going to get that. I mentioned the officials, Doug Sermons, Andy O'Brien, and Ronald Grover. Good job today, fellas.
Yeah. Yep. So as we go forward here, looking at what we saw on the court, you had a really, Morez is kind of picking up steam here. What do you think about Yakachonis? Do you think he is in a situation where he's starting to feel a little better? There were a couple times where he came out of drives where he had a little bit of a limp, and that did any concern there, Ked, or is that just, a sense of drama matched up with maybe just a quick stinger? What did you think there?
I think a stinger. And I tell you what, today I thought he let the game kind of come to him a little bit. I thought early last week when they played Maryland, because Ivisic was out, I think he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Today, I didn't see that. I saw none of that today. I think, he let the game come to him, which is what he needs to do. I think, and he logged 35 minutes. He played more minutes than anybody on the team today. I take that back. Morez got 35 minutes today as well. So, but just to answer your question, I think he'll be fine. Because they put him back in the game when they kind of screwed up and made a few bad plays and to make the game closer than what it really was. I don't think there's anything that we should read into that. I think right now, like you mentioned, the schedule, the 2 days, everybody's going to be kind of grinding it out. Rest is going to be important. I think there's enough coaches on that staff to know when to push, when not to push. But this sounds like I'm crying over spilled milk. They have to get healthy. Brad Underwood just said this, and, for the people out there driving home, I don't think this is coaches speak. He just said he does. He believes, because he had a Final 8 team last year, and he just said that if this team is healthy, when they're healthy and they're shooting the ball, this is a Final 4 team. And that tells you what the coach is thinking, Mike.
Yeah. And I'm fully with him with that, but the only concern I have is they have not been shooting to the level that I thought they were capable of. And it, like and you really need to have Boswell, ratchet back up to his old self, the 40% self. KJ has to hit at a high level, and Rickhouse has to hit at a high level. When those three guys are hitting, this is a Final Four team. But that's also could be construed by some fans as being a yeah but. So in other words, if any team, if they're three really good 3-point shooters are shooting well, they're really good. But I do think those three guys are extremely talented. They've proved it on the court, whether it was at Evansville, whether it was at Arizona, whether it was in Europe. So we know they've done it. Now they just have to replicate those high moments in a game with pressure, as opposed to maybe not necessarily hitting it at the time. So I'm thinking they have the ability, but I'm a little concerned because we haven't seen the consistent performance level that's great out of their 3-point shooting, Ked.
I agree, and I said that about one of the people who follow me on Twitter made a comment. I mean, it's something a coach is not going to harp on. They're just not. They were 9 of 32 again today from three, which is 28%. Northwestern was 10 of 25 for 40%. That's what you want to see. I would much rather see them shoot 25 threes than 32, and then obviously 40% is a hell of a lot better than 28%. Then, like I mentioned, they shot 67% from the free throw line. I will say, which was nice, though, they did shoot 45% from the field, which is nice. So shooting the two ball was good for them, like I said to you. But the 3-point shooting as a coach, I just know as a coach and coaching kids that can shoot, and that was what I was pretty good at. If somebody's constantly talking to you in your head about shooting the ball all the time, it is going to become mental with you. And then you're going to start short arming it and you're going to start aiming it. And that's what I think happened to Rickhouse earlier in the year. He came in as a shooter, Mike. Then people start talking about it, and then he started aiming it.
Hey, there we got, folks. We've got Brad Sturdy, the Uber Illini insider, is inside his car, so he's an insider in more than one way today. Brad, how did things go, and what comes to mind based on what happened there today, and what are your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the only difference they had to do, their energy was great. I thought they played really hard for about the first 35 minutes of the game, and then kind of went, lackadaisical down the stretch. And, I always think it's funny. There's no question the last 4 minutes or so were pretty bad. But I always think it's funny, like, Illinois up by 22 and a half, and everybody thinks, like, well, they're going to win by 22 in the second half as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work that way in college basketball. Like, I mean, these teams are all good. Now, I mean, even the bad teams are good. And Northwestern's not a bad team, obviously. So, yeah, this is they're a top 50, in KenPom, top 50 on the net. This is a good win. And Illinois did what they had to do. I thought their energy was fantastic, diving on the floor, attacking, 21 offensive rebounds. There's not much more you can say about that. I would like to see them, they were pretty good offensively today, in large part due to the rebounding. But the scary part for me is they had 21 offensive rebounds. Usually that translates to about 20 points or so. They only had 13 second chance points out of those 21 rebounds, so they really didn't convert. It could have even been better offensively.
Well, I blame a lot of that last 5 minutes on the fact that you tweeted out that 450 whatever, that 455 or whatever, that they were up 76 to 56. So I'm placing a lot of this on you and your tweeting.
Well, I don't know if they were looking at my Twitter, but maybe they were. I'll take the blame.
Well, if Tommy took a look at it, and then he said something to the rest of the team, and then next thing you know, you've demotivated the entire Illini squad. Way to go.
Yeah, my bad. I actually did talk to Tommy before the game, though. It was funny. Tommy was down in the media room grabbing some popcorn. And he looks so much better than he did just a couple days ago. So, they're hopeful that it won't be too long that he's out.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the unpredictability of mono in terms of return times. And, of course, that Nebraska team is going to have their proverbial back against the wall after being pasted by Wisconsin. So, I mean, there's no easy games in the Big Ten because there's no bad teams. There may be some teams that aren't as good as the others. And then you give them motivation like what Nebraska is going to have, and Illinois had better have it strapped on when they make that trip to Nebraska.
yeah, I really think energy is the key for this team. When they play hard, they play with energy. That's the controllable, right? Shots may not go in, but once again, I think it's 12-1 now. 12-1 when they shoot better than 28%. And they missed a few kind of Hail Marys, but it's about energy. Winning the rebounding battle, tracking down those missed threes, making some threes, guarding, making it difficult. The first half, their defense was fantastic, I thought, really good. And, that's what they have to do, whether they're at home or on the road, if they want to be successful.
Yeah, a couple questions for you, Brad. First off, Rickhouse has to be feeling better after starting to hit and be able to kind of point to critics. Hey, look at what I'm doing. Did you notice a different feel and confidence from him?
I'm not sure. Obviously when the ball goes in, life is great, right? I mean, you always feel good about yourself. But I think he's always felt like, they've always felt good about him and what he can do. It was more of a fan base thing, and fans kind of do their thing. He's a good player. He's done a good job. Is he a great lockdown rebounder defender? No. But he did a pretty good job today, I thought. They made him match up with some bigger guys, and then he blocked some shots, contested some shots, he made some threes, he rebounded, 4 rebounds. I mean, and also one of his biggest roles today wasn't necessarily to get rebounds. It was to prevent them from getting offensive rebounds, preventing guys like Nicholson from getting to the offensive glass. That was his job. And so, yeah, man, I think he did a good job. And you just, I think sometimes we get, all that kid does is work. He gets in the gym. If he's 0 for 5, he's going to be in the gym shooting more. He's 4 for 9 tonight from 3. Guess what he's going to be doing? He's going to be in the gym shooting more. It's just what he does. And, that's why he's a good culture fit. That's why he fit the culture and he understands it. And, you just hope he keeps making shots, especially that they're going to need him going forward until Tommy comes back.
Well, let me ask you another question, because Ked and I both talked about the fact that we thought Jake Davis was just a roster piece for this year, get some practice and be able to contribute next year. Were the coaches, have they been surprised by how well he's done? And what were your expectations for Jake?
I think he's exactly what they thought he would be. He's tough. He plays hard. He understands the game. He can knock down open shots. I mean, I think he's exactly what they thought he would be. Let's be honest. He's very, very similar to Luke Goody in some respects, in the fact that he's going to, be tough. He's going to battle for rebounds. He's going to battle on defense. He's going to make open shots. I mean, he's very much like, replacing Luke Goody. So, he's doing what they wanted him to do. I think there was an adjustment for him at the beginning, trying to figure out, what he was trying to do, how to do it, how he fit, and now he's settled into a role nicely and, being nice, even if it's a 10-minute guy off the bench who can knock down shots, boy, that's great to have.
Ked, any thoughts on that after you and I? Ked just left the building. As we're going forward now, did you think that? I didn't think Morez played that much differently than he normally does, other than the fact he dunked instead of dribbled, which is great. But it seemed like he got more of a fair whistle today, as opposed to when he breathes on somebody, there's a foul. I think he always hustles. What was your impression of Morez out there on the court and the fine game that he had?
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a good job of not getting a silly foul for reaching in. He got one late when he kind of pulled his arm down, but he didn't do those things that get you those silly fouls. And then when you get a bad call, it doesn't mean as much.
Yeah. Because
you don't get a silly one here and there. And I thought he did a really good job of not doing that. And yeah, I agree. I thought he was straight up and down on. He did a really good job staying in front of Martinelli and making Martinelli go over him. I mean, he blocked a couple shots. He contested a ton and made it difficult on him. Chris Collins talked about it after the game. He didn't let him get to his hooks. He made it hard on him, then let him get to that shoulder. And he's so physically strong, 6'9", 255. He can hold his position against a guy like Martinelli, where if you have a smaller guy, he can't. And that was the difference today.
Now Brad Illini Bubba said Brad sounds like he has his mouthful eating, driving, and commentating. I tried to explain to everybody that, Illini guys, one of the big things important, except for Larry, who can't pull it off, but all of us pretty much eat, drink, and drive and do all sorts of things while we're eating and drinking.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, yeah, I just got done. I've been going since 7 a.m. this morning with stuff, and just got out, and now I'm driving home, so I can do some more stuff. So, no, it's fun. But no, overall, I thought the other thing I want to add, Illinois had just a fantastic list of visitors for basketball and for football today, and so that was really nice. Devin Cleveland of 2027 was there with, and many Mac Irvin Fire brought some guys.
Wow,
so that was good too.
Now we're really getting into the surprising things now that Mac Irvin Fire is bringing guys down again.
Yeah, and there was another kid there from Mid-Pro Academy, big kid, and he is kind of reminds people of Robbie Avila. I think he has a little bit more upside in athleticism, down the road. I don't know how, I can't say he's that skilled because Robbie's pretty ridiculously skilled. So that was good. And Keaton Wagler, the commitment, the signee from 2025, Illinois got to watch him play Saturday. He was playing in Quincy, played Friday and Saturday in Quincy, and was able to come over to the game, talk to them. What a great kid, really fantastic. Talked about his season, talked about where he's going. He really loves Adam Fletcher, loves what he's going to be able to do to him from a strength standpoint. Really feels like that is a guy who can make a difference in his, in his career.
Yeah, no, that's great. And of course, folks, if you as you know, IlliniGuys.com, we have a website where we do Illini recruiting, etc. That's the mothership, $99 a year, and you get the message boards, and that's where Brad and Ked put an awful lot of the recruiting information. We keep that behind subscriber walls. There's got to be a reason why people subscribe to Illini Guys. You'll see a lot more stuff there. And so if you are interested in Illini recruiting like that, that's the best way to follow it and have that opportunity. And of course, obviously, as many likes as you can give us. We really appreciate everybody being here watching, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube. We appreciate it. And of course, make sure you like and share our stuff as much as you can. And of course, if you go to YouTube, you can go to IlliniGuys.com, and that's where you can that's where all of our videos are. If you subscribe to that, then they'll come your way and you won't have to fight around. And if you have any Illini fan friends, please send our stuff out to them so that they know about it from a social media standpoint. That's one thing I always tell people to go ahead and do. Brad, any other thoughts, in closing? I guess, when I look at Yakachonis today, I thought he played really well and he stayed within himself. How did he look to you as he's, going out there, coming off of that injury a few weeks ago and now playing without his pick and roll buddy? How did you think he looked overall?
I thought it was really good. Northwestern was gonna, make it hard on him. They make him give the ball up off that ball screen. They really wanted him to give the ball up, and he did. He found guys wide open. To be honest, I mean, he had 11 points and he had 10 rebounds, 7 assists. If guys would have made some wide open shots, he would have easily had a triple double. He made some great beats, I thought, and really just played smart. And just, he's so talented that I think the other thing about him when he's on the floor, they took him out for a stretch in the second half, and the ball just stuck.
Yeah.
It becomes ISO, it's one-on-one, it's the ball didn't move, guys trying to get their own. And it's amazing when he's on the floor that everybody else now passes the ball too. Because he'll run up a ball screen, he'll find a guy, and then that guy will attack a closeout, kick it, move it, ball changes sides. And that's really against the Northwestern defense, the way they overhelp. They make you throw through their arms, their legs, their length, and try and get tips on passes so that you can't make that pass to the weak side. But the weak side's always open. And that's the way they play. And it's they help from the weak side. They make you change sides, which is not that easy to do. And they really do a great job getting their hands in gaps for penetration. They really do a good job with helping without without over-helping on the ball side, they can still get in the gap there. So very impressed with their defense. Illinois executed their game plans very well. And a large part was due to Kasparas. You can watch him play. He's reading all the time. He's learning as he's going. What's going to be open? What are they going to do? How are they playing me? And he makes that adjustment. He's just got so smart as a basketball player. The problem is sometimes guys that are that cerebral and that talented, they think they can make plays that probably aren't there. And they also sometimes think that the other guys are thinking the same way they are. And they probably aren't. The other guys aren't seeing the same thing he is. And so it's like a learning thing, and for all of them. But I thought he was fantastic, really got Morez involved. I think that was huge. You look at Morez last game, really struggled, never really got involved. Now you get him involved early. You make a play, you get him a dunk. You get Humrick House a wide open 3 or 2. You get those guys involved, and all of a sudden, now this team is effective. And it's very difficult to play against them because they're able to have so many guys that can hurt you. And so that's where – that's the really impressive part about this squad. And when he's clicking, they're going to win most of the time.
One final question, Brad. But what was the mood of Coach Underwood in the post game? We've seen one of the 12 worst losses at home in Illinois history, and now we see a game that, aside from the last 4 minutes, had to be a very satisfying game. What was his mood like post game?
It was good. I mean, I think he loves the upside. Of course, he's ready to get to the Chiefs game, watch the Chiefs game. So I think that's the biggest thing. But he loves the upside that this team has. I mean, they have to get hold. They really thought that they brought the energy there, and they did. It's hard to. I mean, for me, I thought they did exactly what you wanted them to do. You control what you can control. They can control their effort. They can control the energy they play with. They can control understanding game plans and scouting reports. Ball doesn't go in, okay. The other team makes a tough shot. Okay, it happens. That's part of basketball. They did a great job of controlling the controllables today and bringing that energy. And so he was happy with that. I don't think he loved the last 3.5 minutes at all. His sideline, that was the only time I really saw him irate on the sideline. But, yeah, definitely something where it's a really good win. I think he's happy. But he knows they've got a tough sled here, and they got to battle through it without Tomislav.
All righty, Ked, final thoughts, and then we'll have Brad wrap things up.
Well, sorry about technology. It's one of my favorite things. I'm a huge techie guy, but you can't control it. So sorry, and I apologize for that. But while I was off air, you guys were talking about the upcoming schedule. And so I did have a chance to look at Nebraska's schedule while I was off. And I was hoping and praying that Nebraska had a game this week, and they don't. So they're going to have the same amount of rest. The advantage is going to be to Nebraska because it's at home. So I was hoping they had a Tuesday game, and then they had to prepare, and then a turnaround for Illinois. But that's not going to happen. So they need to be prepared, get dialed in, be the team that you think that you're supposed to be. You lost some games at home. There's no sense of crying over spilled milk. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Just go get another one on the road.
And Brad, I'll give you the final word here.
See, it's technology again. I told you.
You've lost the 2 home games rather, in the Big Ten, and you've got 1 3 road game, so you're +1. Not the end of the world. But what they really need to do now is find a way to win a couple of road games here, get back to a +3, +4. That's where you're going to end up 14-6, 15-5 if you're +5. That's where they need to try and get 13-7, 14-6 in the Big Ten. If they make a run, maybe you're 15-5. Who knows? But opportunities there over the next 6 games here. They have a great opportunity to win every game before they head to Wisconsin and then play Duke and Madison Square Garden. But you got to do it 1 game at a time. The first test is obviously Nebraska, a team that they should be able to win if they come out with the same type of energy.
Perfect. So, folks, with that, we will let you go on. We're going to time this up. We just saw the Eagles score a record 55 points in an AFC-NFC championship game. We're all going to get down and see if can the Bills outbeat, can they get rid of Pat Mahomes? We joke a lot. Pat Mahomes is like Captain America. His superpower is winning. Should be a fantastic game here. but we will have this released for you guys. If you maybe didn't get the full thing, you'll be able to watch this or listen to this. And we will, of course, like all other sports fans, we will be glued in front of the NFL enjoying that. And of course, we hope you enjoyed this. Please share it with your friends. Please like and subscribe to the IlliniGuys.com YouTube channel. Hit us up on Twitter as well. We would love to have that. And of course, the biggest thing is go to IlliniGuys.com and join there, $99 a year. That way you'll be able to get all the information on the recruits and some of the inside information that Brad found when he was talking to the recruits, because he's Brad. Until next time, folks, go Illini.